Gerber and Golden Corral.
Okay, let's get after it today, Jack.
We're getting after it. Let's go.
Getting after it.
Hey, he's Steve Peterson, and I am Jack Hinkle. I'm sorry, I said your name for you. He is
Steve Peterson.
And I'm Jack Hinkle, and welcome to
another episode of Chops Podcast, where we talk about love of teaching, love of content, and love of students.
I thought you were going to go Chops
Chops Podcast on iTunes and Spotify.
There you go. And YouTube.
YouTube.
Yes, check us out. Go follow on TikTok as well, and go follow on Instagram at chops_podcast, and go follow us on YouTube, where we post shorts and video podcasts where you can watch and listen. Double the experience.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Get off your phone, Steve. Okay. So, Jack.
Steve.
What we're going to talk about today is Gerber baby food and Corral, Golden Corral.
We used to take the band to Golden Corral. Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. We used to do the dinner of state finals at Golden Corral, and we do the senior trip breakfast at Golden Corral.
Oh, that's right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
We would go into Golden Corral at like 10 a.m.
Yep.
and like 6 p.m. Those are two very different times to go into Golden Corral. Do you like going to Golden Corral?
No.
No, I'm afraid of it.
I'm not afraid. I'm not like one of those squeamish kind of guys, but I'm just like I'm not really a big like food guy. Like I don't, but I mean, it doesn't mean I don't eat a lot, but it just means like I don't really have a need for that much choice.
No, or that much food.
Right.
That's like a lot of food. It just kind of icks me out. Okay, do you remember Old Country Buffet? That used to be like where like the GameStop is in Subway.
Yes.
Dude, that used to be my favorite thing
I've
as a
never
little
been
kid
there.
because
I've
I
never
would
been
like destroy all that food. It was so good. But now I look back and I was like, I like that.
Or
Different
CC's
time.
Pizza.
Oh, dude.
CC's Pizza was like a all-you-could-eat buffet, and then they had all these different kinds of pizzas, including dessert pizzas.
Those were so good.
Right, and it was cheap.
That was
And
like popping at like 2005,
Yes,
right?
and then that's like when my boys were younger, and
Yes.
we could take them to there, and then they had like video games and
Yeah.
toy
Oh,
cranes and
that's
all
right
that
in the
stuff.
arcade.
Yeah.
They used to do like the elementary school funding nights.
Yes.
Oh man, dude, that place was
You could smack that pizza, right?
right. Smack that pizza. That was really good. They would do all the field trips there. Oh, great times. That was good times.
So Old Country Buffet
Yeah.
versus Gerber baby food. That is our point.
Wait, Golden Corral versus baby
What'd I
food.
say?
Old Country Buffet. I mean, tomato,
okay.
tomato, but
Golden Corral, which is where you self-serve, and then the other place is Gerber, where the image is baby food. Somebody spoon
Here
feeding
comes
you.
the airplane. Here it comes. Open. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So the question is, or the thought is, like how that takes place in the classroom, and when to let the students have Gerber, and when the students should be eating at Golden Corral.
Yes.
Right.
That's good. Yeah. When are you eating Gerber? When are you eating Golden Corral?
Right.
Yeah, that, and this is kind of like goes back to like Scott Sprathing. Like he talks about spoon feeding a lot.
Right.
When it comes to teaching. And I remember being in his beginning band. He's like, I'm not spoon feeding you these rhythms. Like, no, like we gotta work on this together and figure it out. Right. Yeah. So this was something Steve and I talked about like the last week. Like when does a spoon feed kind of sounds like derogatory, but it is like, I guess, more teacher led.
Yes.
Versus
more
not.
I do.
More I do, not you do. Right.
Right.
There you go. So, Steve, what was the flavor of the day today in your classes? Little column A, little column B?
Well, it was each class kind of had a similar vibe as far as it felt like we just played a whole lot today.
Yeah. And
just like in a couple of the jazz band classes, especially in one of them, just got into I'd like to do like set up like 8 measures of music at a time and get the drum groove going, whatever that is. And then the kids play the 8 measures, and like we're doing something that's like really fast, and we're going dabba dooba 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 doo. So we're like doing what we call halftime, right? And we're just playing 8 measures, and then we do like an 8 count drum fill, and then we start it again, and like we would play it like 10 times.
Just giving the chance for the kids to stretch out.
Just and get them stretch out and just kind of get their fingers and teeth and tongue and air and limbs all into it, and just kind of not worrying about it. And then we would, after maybe 10 reps, kind of speed it up and then like try to put it into context. But we spent like a tune that's maybe a 3-minute tune. We did that to like almost every section. We just did it like painfully slow and then just built it back up. And it was just little talking by me.
Yeah, you're not really teaching it.
No, just letting them kind of to go through it.
So this is Golden Corral then?
Yes.
Because they're feeding themselves. They're teaching themselves.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I would say maybe something between. I'd be like, observe the accents. Like they weren't having problems with notes and they weren't having problems with rhythms. It was just kind of getting the technique all together at a slow tempo, and they could get it faster. So that was good because we spent a lot of time and they were just kind of feeding themselves, right? Putting it together, which was helpful. And then some, so that felt like they were eating themselves and they were trying to figure that out. And then, but in some other classes, it felt like I was doing much more Gerber. Like it felt like the amount of material that I needed to get through, or we needed to get through.
Yeah, open up. Here's some pumpkin.
Just like
here's some green beans.
It was like you're supposed to do like I do something, you do something, we do it together. You know,
this is called the gradual release method of teaching.
I do, we do, you do.
Yeah, if you think of this like in math, because that's like really easy to understand. Teacher does a problem at the board. Students watch. Teacher says, "See how I did this?" Students go, "Okay." And they say, "We do." Teacher does like sets up the problem and says, "Okay, let's try step 1 of this problem together," and we all do it together. Then we do step 2 together. We all do step 2 together. And then once we do the we do, then it's you do. The students do it. And then the teacher will give a problem, and the students do it on their own. And the teacher's kind of walking around monitoring, giving help when necessary. But by the end, the students can do it on their own.
Right.
I do, we do, you do.
Okay, so I'm gonna blow this up because as being a father and watching kids learning how to like feed themselves, right? Like some magical times watching kids try to feed themselves, right? And just like, you know,
like
yogurt
missing their mouth.
And like, But so thinking about like watching a 1-year-old trying to cram, you know, Teddy Grahams or spoonfuls of squash or bits of avocado or birthday cake into their mouth, it's like you're like joyous watching them trying to feed themselves because you don't feel like you're in a rush.
Okay.
You know, I'm guessing like the stereotypical like first birthday party, like kid grabs cake, you know, smashes it, and
cake in the mouth,
right, and so kind of like at that, they're still in a high chair, and just kind of grabbing everything, grabbing your glasses and the keys, and you know,
like, no, don't eat those, don't eat those.
No, don't do that. And so, but you kind of relish the fact that they're trying it, and it's not like. I never remember going, gosh, I just wish Adam would figure out how to eat that. Like, I just wish he could hurry up and eat that toast.
Gosh, can we just get that fork going already? My gosh.
That is so, and you're, Jacob, gosh, you got cottage cheese all over
what are we
going to
do? Kathy,
my gosh.
Kathy, get the napkin.
Grandma. And so, like the time frame is like a lot longer, and it's a long ball kind of thing, right? And I just... You know, that was kind of like fun letting your child explore that and kind of embrace that. Like, oh, that's so cool, man. They're like, look at that. They're cramming avocado into their nose and they're doing all that. And it was like fun.
That's true because everyone's filming the cake fest. No one films like the 6-year-old with a fork like eating cake. Like that's not fun to film.
No, that's not.
That's good.
But you don't feel, I didn't feel rushed. Now, maybe if my kid were 18 and still doing that, like I would have been like, Jacob, we got to pick up the pace here. Like, it just didn't, and I didn't feel self-conscious about taking the boys out to a restaurant or to someone's house and they were making a mess, because that's what you do when you're one.
When you're one.
And so I wish I could have that same patience in a 20-minute class than I did like in a 2-year window watching boys eat.
So wait, so what are you saying? We need to like scaffold the distance between Gerber and Golden Corral?
No. So like, even though so I kind of cross-pollinated. Even the boys were they were eating Gerber, they were eating baby foods, they were still feeding themselves. So it was like Golden Corral.
Yeah.
They were initiating it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
In a safe environment.
Right. Even though they were eating Gerber, I wasn't feeding them. That was earlier in the process.
Right. So it's the self-feed, the starting to figure out how to self-feed was like in a safe space where they could fail and it's fine.
Yes.
And there was patience and time to
right.
do
It wasn't
that.
like,
Controlled environment.
Oh, here we go again. Wednesday night dinner. Wonder if Adam's going to launch the cottage cheese on the wall. Like, yes, he did. Yeah. And I wish I could be more patient as a classroom teacher in a shorter amount of time and being like, hey, we got time to figure this out. We got time. You're going to not sound good for a while on this. But,
yeah.
and
that's good. Yeah.
Right?
I'm with you.
Okay,
so I've told kids this. Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Okay.
I've told kids this, like especially in the younger bands. I said, okay, we're going to play this 3 times.
Yep.
And I'm going to assume the first time is not going to be great.
Right.
I'm going to assume the third time is going to be really close. Like we're probably going to get
Okay.
close, if not get it by that time. We're not going to talk in between times. I'm not going to teach. Just play. Boop. Okay, try it again. Go. Boop. Okay, third time. Go. And the kids feel uncomfortable when they make mistakes. Shocking.
Right.
So maybe what you're talking about is kind of like teaching them how to change from the spoon-fed to the self-fed, is like becoming comfortable with the process of figuring it out on your own.
Okay.
Right? And we see this a lot in marching band, but this is like classroom management 101. If your kids are misbehaving, there's a good chance it's because they don't understand the material.
Right.
Regardless of subject. If your kids can comprehend the material or are on track with it, there's a bigger sense of buy-in right away.
Right.
So now it's kind of hard to find this, because this is like a dance, right? Trying to find the just enough, like dangle the carrot out in front for them to follow through. That's kind of what like you're talking about, right? Teaching the kids how to begin to self-feed.
Right.
Self-serve.
Right. So I guess, going back to that idea, like as a toddler, a 1-year-old, they want to self-feed. They want that. That's
the
like
dream.
liberating.
That is.
Right?
Give me the cake. Yep.
Right? And there's a desire, and then because they see other older people in their life doing it, and they're
Yes.
like, I want to do that. Right?
Yes.
So, but then I guess we just have to have more time in class. We have to have more band rehearsal, and we just have to be in school all day and like working on the same 8 measures.
Or we play one song for the whole year.
Right. Because then you have time to work on it.
Then you have time.
And you have time to perfect it.
Okay. Next year. Okay. We're going to
One
play
tune.
one tune.
The
We're
whole
still going to have all the concerts we do. We're just going to play the
one
same tune.
Every band's going to play the same tune.
Every band. Carnival's going to be
So,
a
well,
long show.
this does go to knowing your content about age-appropriate, skill-appropriate activities.
Yeah.
Though, that's like...
Age-appropriate, skill-appropriate activities. Because you're doing that with a jazz band.
Right.
And that's like older kids.
Right.
You could not do that if you were Brian Golden teaching the beginning brass.
Right.
You could not say,
Right.
okay, 10 measures, do it again. And they're like, what?
Right.
No, that's true. That's a good point.
Right. But it has to be something achievable, right?
Yes.
And something that they can self-correct
Yes.
and self-analyze,
Mm-hmm.
self-reflect, right?
It's true. It's true. And, the teaching music, like all this stuff happens live time. And if you make a mistake in music and you're playing in a group of people, it's pretty obvious when someone makes a mistake because something sounds bad. If you're doing, like 10 math problems, you might make constant mistakes and not be able to pick them up. So there is like a self check has to be a part of that.
Right.
And hopefully that's what you're teaching in any skill-based class.
Right. I think I can't remember. I should give a shout out on something on Instagram. There's some set of reels or some subscription that's coming up, some channel that's coming up that does talk about like some teacher is getting ready for her band or orchestra going to contest, and she keeps on saying like what the judges are gonna say, like forecasting what the judges are gonna say. But basically, like she was like rehearsing with the students. It was just on her. She was like 1, 2, ready, go. That wasn't your best. Try it again. And the idea was like many reps and not giving them all the answers.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's kind of like what you just mentioned, but it was just like giving them time to process. And it's kind of like what I said with like the 10 reps out of this one thing. Like I always say like experience it, like taste it, touch it, see it, hear it, like just kind of get into it and let it stink and let it be clumsy, and then we'll slow it down as a group, and then we'll pick it back up. And
I think something you and I have both done more this year is that we let the kids play on their own.
Yes.
And I don't remember doing that much until this year. And now I'm like, why didn't I do that more?
I think that's a good brain drainer.
Yeah.
And it's something just kind of like the kids like playing their instruments, and right. And they like to play it structured and unstructured, and just give them a time to look at things.
It's essentially just the you do before we do anything, like a warm-up problem or something like that. I mean, it sounds cacophonous in the band room when it happens because kids playing whatever on their own time, but it does give them a risk-free zone to practice, which they normally do realize if they make a mistake in that time, and they can normally self-correct quickly. Like we were sight reading this Beatles tune, this Yesterday tune, and I let him go right away. And the first time we played through it, like we got through, there were some like nice things going on. And, just getting a chance to touch it, to taste it, so to speak, with the music, it really does give the kids a better running start, so to speak.
Yeah. And that's what we want. We don't want to like try to catch them.
And once you kind of teach get the system going, like I think of marching band, like having our system, because marching band is really self-serve in its best form. It can be self-serve. Okay. Look at your next set. Where are you going? Okay, find it. Okay, try it. Okay. And having the system and kind of the system can kind of feed itself.
Right.
Then you're onto something. Which begs the question, Steve.
Bum, bum.
Are there times it's good to go Gerber?
Yes.
For example?
I think there's times to go Gerber when maybe something that you're expecting of the students is just maybe it's out of their reach to comprehend at that moment, at that speed. And maybe because of certain other factors, you have to get through the material more quickly. And so you just kind of have to get to the answer of the story problem and maybe not even check to see if they understand it. Now, that's not great teaching, but sometimes in a performance-based class, at some point you're going to have, my opinion, you have to cut corners at some point to get to the finish line. Or you could do it methodically and be very tedious, but move at a pace that you're never going to make that. So I think that there is a dance, like you said, there is a dance of that going on. And maybe, the happy medium is making sure that they're aware of these points of like how you solve this little area right here. And then you're going to use that plan like maybe 4 or 5 different times in here. And that's the same concept. Okay. But sometimes you just have to kind of ramp up the RPMs, and I think you have to more spoon feed.
It's kind of like the speedboat cruise ship thing.
It is.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I wish that every group I worked with, I want them to have challenges, but the challenges should have enough understanding based student understanding that they're able to kind of feed themselves
Yes.
through that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm trying to think through of like times to go Gerber, so to speak, and I kind of find myself in the same category as you. It's kind of like you just don't have enough time,
Right.
or otherwise you would. Is saying not enough time fair? Can we say that? The tasks are a lot.
Well, the time, there's enough time. It's just that we choose to do too much. We choose to try to accomplish too much.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what that means.
There you go. That's a good way to say it.
And that's all on us. That's all on the. Now, if you're teaching a core curriculum class, or you're teaching like an IB class or an AP class, you have to get through a finite set of material. So you have to get through that, right? If you're teaching a more open-ended class, like piano class, it doesn't make a difference if I get to the back of the book or not.
Right.
But so I can adjust the speed at which the students are working, right?
Yes. Yeah, and you want it to always be in seeking of the self-serve.
Right.
That's true. It also brings me to beginner orchestra.
Okay.
Because we were working on something today, and I think a kid said in the room, which like we have a concert next week, and we're playing our 3 tunes, and this class is like, they're pretty strong at reading music, and that's like one of the biggest skills we have to learn that year is how to read music. And playing it for the first time when you see it, we call that sight reading. This orchestra is strong at that in the years I've taught here. But today, they're getting out their music, and we're working on a section that's kind of less familiar. And I think one of the kids was like, I just don't remember how this part goes as well. And we're like, wait, no. You don't have to remember. That's the beauty. You just have to look. Like, you just have to look at it. And I wonder, too, if it's not a skill of, like, I can read this versus I can't. It's a skill of, like, Gerber versus Golden Corral.
Like for the students?
For the students. Like, maybe they're used to Gerber.
Right.
And they're not as used to Golden Corral, even though they can go, they're old enough to get up and get the food.
That's funny. Like, I was talking to Brian Golden about this a couple of weeks ago. Maybe you were in the hallway, too, but he was talking about reading some music that the students can totally play, like in a group he was working with, and they chose not to play. He said, like, chose not to play the right rhythms. He's like, they were just being, like, apathetic.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, low energy, like, bothering to count it out. And, like, he's like, no, you guys know how to do this.
You can do this. You can do hard things. Yeah.
Right. And just, he's like, they just, I don't know if you use the word lazy or apathetic, but just like not applying themselves, like not making themselves be accountable and like being like more energetic in the way they're approaching it.
Because I think when students come to that point in the road, because I think students come to that point every day in every class.
Yeah.
Am I choosing apathy or am I choosing energy?
Apathy versus energy.
If you choose apathy, you're likely going to get something wrong. A question, playing, misspell, whatever, right? But if you choose apathy, the wrong move was apathy. The wrong move wasn't the missed note. The wrong move was apathy. And I don't think kids have an understanding that those are two different things. Kid might be like, I'm not going to try that hard. Oh, no, I missed a note. No, you just didn't pick energy.
Right.
You picked apathy. And kids don't understand the relationship between the two.
Yeah.
It's like because if they did, or maybe they choose not to understand it, because if they did, it doesn't feel like they're opting out. Right?
So the apathy versus energy, the apathy is
Gerber.
It's Gerber. They want, but it's safer. It's
safer.
It's more safe.
Safer. Gerber, safer.
Right.
Golden Corral, dangerous.
Yeah, because you got to chew your food.
You got to chew your food, and it's Golden Corral. Yeah, and kids got to figure that stuff out. I would say most of the time, don't kids want Golden Corral? Don't they want the self-serve?
Mm.
Is that a hot take?
That's. That kind of goes back to our apathy.
Yeah, maybe kids don't care what they get fed.
Well, this is all like intertwined because they want to do what they know how to do. And it's fun to do something if you know how to do it.
That's true.
It's fun to play music that you know how to play.
That's why kids practice the same 4 measures they can already play for 2 hours
Right.
straight. Yeah. Did you look at that new part? No. Huh.
Okay. You can play your 7th grade band music and now you're a junior. Good job.
Good job.
Right?
Yeah, please practice with a metronome. Okay. So what's our mission here? Where does that leave Jack and Steve? What do we have to do?
I think that we share with students, just like when you're thinking about feeding a young human, you're sharing them, you're enabling them to eat, right? And so they're tasting the food and they're experiencing the food, even though you're putting it right in their mouth. But the food still tastes good. They're like, this is good. But just like a child sees their father doing that, sitting across the table, and then lo and behold, someday the child starts taking a piece of toast and starts cramming it in their mouth. And because they can still get the food, but then they get to do it. So they get control it. And they get that satisfaction. And they don't have to wait for somebody. So there's that fun and that sense of independence and the sense of that rush of like figuring it out yourself. So maybe it is more innate to be a Golden Corral varsity winner.
Well, and the food, objectively speaking, tastes better from Golden Corral than out of a can of Gerber. I'm sorry, Gerber. If there are any Gerber
there were
employees
times,
listening,
there were times
no,
like
you
in
don't
the music,
say it.
There were times, I didn't. There were times in certain teachers that I worked with, they would bring that to lunch and they would share it with each other. Gerber.
I don't know who these teachers are, so I feel okay in saying that like that. Okay.
And they're like, this is good. Did you try the plums? Oh, no, you tried the player. And also,
yeah,
it's like
26 years ago I did, sure.
Gosh.
No, like, I'm not really a big Golden Corral guy either. I would not choose to eat there. But the food there is made for adults. And sometimes, you got to use your fork and your knife.
Right.
You can't cut steak with just a fork.
Exactly.
And you don't want to be the guy that like stabs the whole piece of steak and then like bites bits of. No, you can't do that.
Right. And that's not productive.
Right. And you shouldn't be eating a steak if you're not going to use your knife.
Correct. So, and that's no fun, but it's just like working on something, like having that goal within the reach of the students. That's the important thing, is that it's manageable, right? Students want to be successful.
We're discovering a lot of layers to student success.
Yeah.
Like I'm just thinking through like some of the things we talked about here. This is why it's good PD for us, because we're like learning stuff, talking through it. Because you got the layer of like, what is the content they're actually trying to achieve? Can they achieve it? What's the rate that they can achieve it? Can they achieve it with an adult or without an adult? And you're like playing like a balancing game with all of these things going on. That's fascinating.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
Wow. Huh. So kids should be Golden Corral. Kids should want to be Golden Corral if we do our jobs right.
Correct.
And if we do our jobs really, really, really well, they can. Why are you playing with your keys, bro? We are recording. Gosh.
Got it.
Okay. Why we should be with the Golden Corral stuff, we could be unemployed if we do our jobs right.
Right.
Because they could do it without us.
Right.
So that like we're trying to figure out how to take kids to that point, right? Not just to like be able to do it, but to want to do it.
Not to be able to do it, but to want to do it. Not just be able to
like
do
they should be like bored because they're like, why are you teaching us this? We can already do this. Like, isn't that the goal?
Right.
So here's an interesting one too. Piano versus band. Piano. That is like a buffet. It's a buffet of buffets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have kids, they're starting from the ground up, and they can like figure a lot of it out,
Right.
even the ones who haven't done music before.
Right.
And then band, it's not quite as similar, right?
Well, is part of that because piano is more open road driving. Like the destination is not as important.
It's true, and it's a brand new car.
And it's a brand new car. So you're like going 80 miles an hour with the top down all the time. And band, it's not open road.
No, it's like,
Because like you alluded to before, but like you sit in band, and if I play clarinet and you play clarinet, we have to like sound good together. In piano class, we do some ensemble work together.
That's true.
But most of it, like 90% of
it's
it,
on your own.
it's on your own, or you're playing with a teacher.
Yeah, piano is like driving a Ferrari on the Autobahn.
Right.
Right?
It's
Band is like you're driving like a minivan, and you've got like 6 children in the back seats, and you're going down US 31.
right, and you're checking all around all
Checking
the time.
all
what's
around.
going
You're like,
around.
I
Right.
just filled up for gas. Hey, McDonald. Oh, we
Yeah.
can't stop. Okay,
Yeah.
keep going.
Right. But the piano is there's more self-feeding going on in that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Although I don't know if you noticed this. Here's something kind of funny, kind of off topic, but so we have this book that we use that's called the older student piano book or something like that.
The purple one?
Yeah.
The adult piano
Adult
method?
piano book. The other one is called the older beginner.
The older beginner.
The black and red one. Okay. But this one, the blue one, is
Yeah.
the adult piano.
Yeah.
And so we finally realized after so many years that we don't need to buy books every year, because kids used to buy them, and they went home with the kids, and we're like, well, that's a waste of money. That's a waste of time, right? So we just leave like classroom copies
Yeah.
there. But have you noticed that over the years, kids have written in those books?
Oh, yes.
And then, so with piano, you learn to read notes on lines and spaces in treble clef and bass clef. So they're doing that skill, and that we work in activities into our classes to help students learn how to do that. But then also we use a number system, fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Mhm.
left hand, right hand, and they figure out these puzzles, and they kind of assume what the next pattern's going to be, and using patterns and information, right?
Yeah.
But some of those books, people have written the wrong thing in,
Yes.
and then it makes me like, oh, now we got to go back to our own books, because not only have kids written in there and written the wrong things, probably just as tragic or detrimental is they've written in there and they've written the right things. So the kids they're not reading music all the time. They're reading English.
That's really true. And I thought about this today because we had new seats today in piano.
And the kids are like, wait, the answer isn't in there.
You're like, no, I need my old book. They're going like Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince on
Yeah.
this. And I'm like, no. But this girl was sitting back, and this girl is like pretty like consistent with her note reading ability.
Okay, wait. Well, I don't want you to identify the student, but I wanted to identify what chair it was, because
Identify the chair.
like
It's
row-
it's row
row-
2. Well, no, on the thing. Oh,
Yeah,
third
okay.
row, second one in. So it'd be 2, 6,
Okay, gotcha.
right?
No, it'd be 2-2.
You're right. 2-2. It's
2-2.
2-2. So she sat 2-2, and she was doing a pass off, and everything was great except one note was like wrong the same way every time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is interesting. And I said, okay, measure 7. What's the name
were
of that
these
note?
the new seats?
No,
The
this was old seats.
Okay.
This was jazz jig, by the way.
You're a jazz jig?
Yeah, dude, we're
I'm
cooking.
a horrible teacher.
Well, maybe I'm doing too much Gerber.
No, we're at Golden Corral.
So she's playing it, and then it's like one note was wrong every time. Like, okay, what's the name of that note? And she's like, D. And I said, that's what you're playing, but that's not the right note. Look at the note. She said, it's D. I'm like, no, look on the step. She goes, oh, it's E. She's like, oh, the person who wrote in this book class was wrong. And I was like, wait, no. No, so she was reading the English, and I was like, oh, no. So then today we switched seats, and she comes to a different piano, and she's like, oh, no, this book doesn't have anything written in it. And I was like, oh, okay.
So I almost wanted to get out another set of books, because
Fresh
we do
copies.
fresh copies, and then just like institute no writing.
Martial law. Well, we've done that before, right?
Right. But I mean, but now it's just kind of like over years, over semesters.
Yes,
years,
they've accumulated.
It's just accumulated now. Like all the answers to the test
Yes.
basically are in there.
It's basically like a pantry of Gerber jars.
It
now.
is. It's
Because what happens is when kids first learn how to read music, it's kind of like really slow translation.
Yeah.
They like, you're looking at a sheet and you're like, okay, this is E, and they like to write it in. And it's okay to write notes in for a couple weeks, right? Think baby food. It's okay to eat baby food when you're one.
Right.
But then you we got to get away from that. But the kids do that, and then they're just reading English. Like they're not reading music, and their brains can already read English. Like they're fine at that. And they think they're like, no, I do it faster this way. I'm like, well,
no,
you do now.
But you're eating baby food, and you're
a junior in high school,
right?
Like,
and you need to develop your muscles. You need better input.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That was actually a relevant example.
Perfect relevant example
of the answers. Like the cheat codes are all written in.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. They're like, the kids are like, okay, so you're gonna have to use a knife, use a fork. Here's some steak.
Right.
And they're like sneaking in like the canned apricots and like passing them around left and right. They're like, hey, you want a little spoon? Here comes the airplane.
Right. Right.
So any piano students listening,
we're on due.
Stop it.
We're on due.
Stop it.
So then it goes back to the time dilemma. To feel like you don't have enough time. And then if we don't have enough time, that's more like a teacher problem, isn't it?
But we have taught them how to use utensils, and we've given them some of that good food when we play the musictheory.net game and we put them up on the board. Like we do our note naming with the class, and once they figure out that they kind of have a flow to it, then they like doing that better. You know, case in point is no one's writing in notes in wind ensemble.
Right.
Unless it's like a very odd note that they never see
Right.
before. Those kids read the music because they've done it long enough and they know it's quicker. They know it's easier to eat steak with a fork and a knife, and they're not trying to just go birthday cake with a steak. It doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's gratifying. That's good. Talking about it?
Yeah. Gerber, Golden Corral. Our newest sponsors. We wish. You got final thoughts with that? You wrapping something around in there?
Well, I was also trying to think about child rearing with the Gerber stuff and the idea of teaching sign language to babies.
What's the idea with that?
So when toddlers can't talk in English.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever their native language is, there's some schools of thought that use sign language to help the child communicate with their caregiver.
Because you taught Adam and
so I'm
Jacob
trying to
this,
think
right? Thank you.
Please, thank you, please, more, and more, please, and so they would communicate, and then I don't even know what this has to do with teaching, but it was the idea that they were still being fed, but they were starting. I think what got me on was the tools. They were beginning to use
a scaffolded
the tools.
approach.
They
tools.
realized that they went more, please, more food, please. I forget the actual actions, but more food, please, Dad. Then Dad would reach into his plate and give you a spoonful of mashed potatoes.
Which is developmentally appropriate if you're one.
Right.
Okay, here's the teaching one with this. Musictheory.net, same thing. This is like video games for learning music. Not really, but it just shows up a bunch of notes, and kids have to click the note name that comes with it. Right. There are a bunch of kids that when the first time they'll do it, and I'll do the thing where I'm saying, okay, just 2 minutes on your own. You're not getting a certain score. You're just going to experience it for your own.
Right.
They get stuck on one, and they just start hammering every letter,
spam it,
which is like a 16-year-old doing like more, 16, more food. No, stop. Use your words. You're intelligent.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop guessing what note it is. And then I'm like, here, this one, treble clef. alphabet up, backwards alphabet down. This line, G.
Right.
Use your tools.
Right.
And it's like, it is the resistant, like at first, because
Right.
it's some sort of like apathy or just like it's not safe or no, please keep like giving me the
Right.
Gerber. I'm like, no, you're ready for a fork.
Right. And it's that. Then when I think also what the sign language thing and that scaffold approach is, it helps alleviate some of that stress about how does a young person communicate with an adult. And they can't formulate the words, they can't sound out the words, but they can get what they want because they can do these actions. So,
yes.
And they can be successful at it. So use the tools that you have.
And make it appropriate for the rigor or of your content.
Right.
That has a baffling amount of similarities.
What's that?
Food and eating
Right.
and teaching is
Right.
baffling.
Right. Teach a man to fish. Give a man a fish. Teach a man to fish.
Dang. There you go.
Woo! Okay, that's good.
Yep.
Golden Corral. We're not really anti-Golden Corral. We're not really anti-food buffets. I don't think we choose to go there. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I've never been to a food buffet unless it was with the band.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not pro buffet.
Okay.
I can't really
I've
speak
never
to
been
Gerber.
to Golden Corral. Like the mushy food.
Wait, what are you talking about? Are you talking about Gerber now?
Both.
Okay.
Like,
You've never done either?
Oh no.
Wait, did you eat some of that food the teacher brought in?
No, I thought it was disgusting. I thought just the concept of it. And they were like, "Oh, it's pears." I'm like, "You're bizarre."
Did they eat it with like an adult-sized utensil?
Yeah.
Did the utensil fit in the
Yeah,
jar?
and they like scooped it out, and they were like eating it.
And there's
like,
a picture of a baby like
right.
on the cover.
And I'm sure it tasted fine, like pear. It was like pear sauce or apples. Like, it was fine.
Did they bring it in like a lunchbox that was like
Well,
Spider-Man
they had
or
a bunch
something?
of them to share.
Which that's like a second level of strange. Like,
But I think some people do that. They eat that.
dude, we're about to lose some listeners right now.
No, but
they're offended.
But you guys know there's that goo-goo squeeze or go-go squeeze.
Go squeeze. Yeah.
Goo-goo. That's what the boys used to call it, goo-goo squeeze. Go-go squeeze. But it's the same thing.
It is. Now I get it if you're like a parent and you have some sitting around and you're hungry and you're in a pinch and there's nothing else. Fine.
That's what they're saying the Gerber is, though.
But they're bringing it to work. They are bringing it
But
to
is
their
any
adult
worse?
workplace.
Is it any worse to go into your pantry and pop open some plums?
It's to do this in public. I don't know. I'm entering dangerous territory.
I think it's worse. I think it's bad either way you do it.
It's bad to do go squeeze at home?
That
Like just
concept,
buy applesauce?
yeah, just like watching somebody like suck on that bag of like mashed fruit is disgusting. Like, gosh, ew, weird. Gosh, like watching something.
Wait, weren't you around for Go-Gurt?
Yeah, I mean it's just.
I'm a Go-Gurt. I mean, that was like my generation, like eating Go-Gurt. It was not a good look.
No, it wasn't a good look.
It was not a good look. I'll take that.
I'm not pro Go-Gurt, and I'm not pro go-go squeeze, whatever.
Go-Go squeeze.
Go-go squeeze.
That would be a good name of the podcast, Go-Go Squeeze. But we'll probably do Gerber Golden Corral.
I wonder if people would be interested in that title. Gerber Golden Corral.
Isn't that's kind of clickbaity?
Clickbait.
What would be the non-clickbait version? Scaffolded approach to self-directed learning.
Wah,
Wah,
wah.
Now you know our secrets with our clickbait titles. There you go.
Okay.
Hey, when's our next guest? When are we doing that again?
For Monday.
We're recording with our new guest next week?
Next Monday.
Oh, so in 2 episodes from now.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
1 episode from now.
Yep, next week, the 11th, we're gonna.
New guest, our March guest.
Yeah, we'll have a March guest, and that will be fun. An actual, real live music educator,
But
not band, but also hip in the online presence.
very
and teacher
hip.
pay
Hashtag
teachers.
TPT. Teachers
Pay teachers. Creating fun activities online, but then also doing in-services at schools.
Yeah.
Kind of hipster. Also very well versed in teaching students of many different cultures,
For sure.
right? And embracing that, the music of different cultures.
And
for students.
some listeners may have had this person
This
as
is
a
true.
teacher.
As a teacher.
Ooh,
Right.
who's it
And
gonna be?
Then it could be like good advertising for their online presence, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
So if you liked what you hear, go ahead and subscribe and check us out on Chops_podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Also, we're available on Chops Podcast for Spotify, Chops Podcast for, what's that called? Apple Podcast?
Apple Podcast.
Apple Podcast. And then also we're available on YouTube under Chops Podcast.
Yep. And
it's like 60 degrees right now.
yeah, I need to go run.
71.
71?
What is going on?
What, the podcast?
What? No, it's nice out. Okay,
There you go.
You're gonna go run. And I'm
Gonna
gonna
go
go
run.
take Oliver for a walk.
Yep. And then we get to do school again tomorrow.
Yay!
Okay. So for Jack Hinkle,
And for Steve Peterson,
see ya.
bye.